I suggest grabbing a pen and paper because all of these books I want everyone and their mothers to read. Let's get right into it. Hey y'all, welcome to or welcome back to my channel, Scotty Cherie Reads. As you can tell in the title below, which I always say, we are talking about banned books. I do have a couple challenge books on here. We'll get into the difference of those two things, but mostly banned books. I have 10 books I've read, and I'm going to talk about the reasons why they were banned and why I think it's bullshit and why I think everyone should pick them up. And then I have 5 books that I found on my shelves that are unread that are calling out to me that are also banned books that I like to read soon. Really quickly, I want to say what inspired me to do this video is that I'm taking part in Katie Coulson's Sunrise on the Readathon reading readathon that's happening all of July. It's based off of the Hunger Games because if you don't know, Sunrise on the Reaping, the 5th book in the Hunger Games series, came out earlier this year. I read it and absolutely loved it. And this readathon is based off of the Hunger Games. There are 12 districts, which is based off of the 12 zodiac signs. And the main reason for this readathon is to push people to read banned books, marginalized authors, translated works, things like that. So I'm gonna have everything linked down below. You can take part of it now if you'd like to, even though we're a little into the month. It's super easy. There's like a cool Discord. Katie has put a lot of work into this readathon. I'm having a really good time. So I realized that this week is the banned book challenge week or battle this week. And I realized I haven't done a video on banned or challenge books on my channel yet. And this is an important topic to me, especially right now in these current times, which I'm always gonna roll my eyes about, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So grab a drink, I have a Topo Chico here, and let's get right into the video. We're gonna start off with a bang because the first book is probably my favorite book of all time. If you've watched my channel at all, you probably know what I'm gonna pull up, but this book not only got me into reading, it was the first time I ever saw myself and some of my challenges as a kid written in a book that I discussed in high school. So that book is The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. And before I get into the reasons why it's banned and why I personally love it, I want to give a huge shout out to my high school English teacher named Miss Springer, Miss Terrell Springer, and unfortunately I found out when I was back home in June that she passed away from lung cancer early last June, which was really sad, but she was one of my favorite teachers ever, and she actually had my high school class, I don't remember what year it was, I want to say it was junior year, but I might be wrong. Anyways, she made my class read The Bluest Eye, and it was so moving for me because this book talks about kind of a black girl not fitting in and wanting blue eyes and straight hair and these things to fit into society's beauty standard. And coming from Indiana and, you know, being in the honors program and being probably the one of 2 black kids that were in that class, it was so powerful to talk about this and educate other people in my classroom about, you know, my experience walking through life, you know, as unfair as that is. But yeah, I just want to shout out Miss Springer, who unfortunately passed away, like rest in peace. But it's just, yeah, it just shows the importance of, you know, not banning these books because this was a phenomenal, just moving, pivotal time in my life that no other book has still to this day been able to do for me. I literally had to take a break for a second because I was getting kind of emotional about, you know, Miss Springer and just that moment in life where I just felt so seen from this book, but I'm back. So let's get into what this book is about. I like to read the back cover a little because this can be I don't want to spoil anything from this book for anyone if you haven't read it. So it says, set in the author's girlhood hometown of Lorain, Ohio, it tells the story of Black, 11-year-old Pecola Breedlove. Pecola prays for her eyes to turn blue so that she will be as beautiful and beloved as all the blonde, blue-eyed children in America. In the autumn of 1941, the year the marigolds in the Breedlove's garden did not bloom, Pecola's life does change in a painful, devastating way. So that's all I want to say about this. It's fairly short. This is actually Toni Morrison's debut novel, which blows me away, but this book is like one of the top 5 most banned books of all time. which is wild to me. So I'm gonna pull up why this book has been banned so much. It says explicit content, sexual violence, which does include incest in this book. Some people think that's a spoiler. I don't. I think that you have to be mentally prepared to go into this book, so I think that's important for you to know. Yeah, there's child abuse in this, just the themes of racism and the impact of white beauty standards on black girls, which some people can find controversial. I mean, I had to live it my whole life and I didn't have a choice, so I don't understand why people want to try to bury it. I don't get it. And then they say maturity level, depending on what year this should be read in school. I think it was totally fine for high schoolers. Like, yeah, maybe not middle school, but it just depends on the kid and the parent and like how they feel about it. But yeah, this is, as I said, phenomenal. If you love me and know me, please read this book and let me know your thoughts below. But yeah, we're gonna start out with this one. Please read this book if you have not. Toni Morrison can do no wrong, as I always say. And yeah, this book is me. Well, not the incest part. Let's not get into that, but there's a lot in this book that I see in myself. Okay, next up on the list, I have a middle grade book called Melissa by Alex Gino. So I'm gonna read the back for you. This story is about a young kid who is going through the emotions of being a transgender girl. So it says on the back, "Be who you are. When people look at Melissa, they think they see a boy named George, but she knows she's not a boy. She knows she's a girl. Melissa thinks she'll have to keep this a secret forever. Then her teacher announces that their class play is going to be Charlotte's Web. Melissa really, really, really wants to play Charlotte, but the teacher says she can't even try out for the part because she's a boy. With the help of her best friend Kelly, Melissa comes up with a plan, not just so she can be Charlotte, but so everyone can know who she is once and for all." So this book was so sweet. I hadn't read a book about a trans kid, like for middle grade or young adult before, and this blew me away. It's approachable for middle grade readers. I think it's important to have kids who are trans and, you know, grappling with their gender identity and even sexuality to have representation in books. But obviously that's also the reason why it's banned. So here it says it's banned and challenged due to its depictions of a transgender girl and its LGBTQ+ themes. Yeah, anything that's queer and definitely anything that's trans is just getting wiped off the shelves, and we all know that, so it's just ridiculous because trans folk and queer folk have been around since the beginning of time, so I don't understand why we keep focusing on this, but whatever. Another funny thing on here is it says it is banned for inappropriateness and sexual references, which is bullshit. There's just one scene where Melissa's like taking a bath and like mentions her genitals, and they're like, oh, that's too inappropriate for kids, which is just wild to me. I mean, they ban sex ed books for kids, which is ridiculous. I just don't understand. And then another big conflict in the book is the upsetting of traditional family structures. Found family and non-heterosexual or heteronormative relationships are still relationships, obviously. Like, all of it's just BS. So this book actually might look familiar because it was originally published George, but the author decided to re-release it as Melissa so that the book wasn't the character's like dead name, which I thought was really cool. So yeah, if you've read George and it's the same book, it's just the title, they changed the title for important reasons, obviously. Go read this book if you haven't. It's very quick. It's awesome. Next up, we have another one of my all-time favorite books, which is a Black classic, and that is The Color Purple by Alice Walker. So I'm gonna read the back really quickly. I like to do my own synopsises a lot of the time, but I don't like to give spoilers away, so that's why I'm just reading the back of these for this book, so that if it sounds intriguing to you, like, please pick it up. It says, this is the story of two sisters, one a missionary in Africa and the other a child wife living in the South, who sustain their loyalty to and trust in each other across time, distance, and silence. Beautifully imagined and deeply compassionate, this classic novel of American literature is rich with passion, pain, inspiration, and an indomitable love of life. I think that's all you need to know to go into it. This book had me crying like a baby. The love that these sisters have for each other and the shit that Celie goes throughout this book from a young age is wild. And it's heavy, so look at the trigger warnings, but an important read because this did happen in the South. Like, things like this definitely happened. Going into why it's banned without giving too many spoilers, it says sexual violence and abuse. Of course, as you heard me read on the back, one of the sisters is a child wife. So yes, like, there's going to be sexual assault, sexual violence that happens in this situation. And you know, there's going to be rape, like there's also incest in this book. And those are heavy topics, but you can't just wipe them off the shelves like it doesn't exist. Like, it exists, and it's up to parents to know when it's appropriate for their kid to read a novel like this. You know, trigger warnings are, I think, a good liaison, I guess, which isn't censoring the book, but giving someone, like, it's not censoring the book at all, but it's giving someone the opportunity to understand what they're getting into so they know and they're prepared, regardless if they're a child or an adult, for their mental health. But anyway, that's a little bit of a tangent. Homosexuality in here with two of the female characters, okay, and, you know, queers exist, like, that's... LGBTQ plus community is out there. You can't wipe it away. Explicit language, okay. Violence, of course there's gonna be violence, physical and emotional. And then literally on here it says racial content. Like, racial content is a controversy? Like, I don't understand. It's saying exploration of race relations in the South has been a point of concern for some. Like, what? You can't erase history, and that's what these mother effers are trying to do. And anyway, yeah, I mean, this is gonna be the same thing with a lot of these books, but I'm just pulling up the ones that you should read, and if that sounds interesting to you, definitely pick this up. Also, there is a movie that is out if you haven't seen it after you read this book. It is fantastic. Just make sure you have a box of tissues before you watch it. The next book I have here is one that I really want people to pay attention to and to go out and buy and read, because I don't see a lot of, like, YouTubers and booktubers talking about this book, and it's phenomenal. And that book is Red at the Bone by Jacqueline Woodson. So Jacqueline Woodson is a really well-known female Black author, but I don't see a lot of people talking about this one specifically. So getting into this, I'm going to read the back. It says, an unexpected teenage pregnancy pulls together two families from different social classes. 16 years later, it is the evening of that child's coming-of-age ceremony in her grandparents' Brooklyn brownstone. She is surrounded by loved ones and friends, making her entrance to the music of Prince, an address originally intended for her mother a generation earlier. Moving backward and forward in time, Red at the Bone is a story of these families and how they arrived at this point and beyond. So it's a teenage pregnancy book that's important and needed because there are a lot of people who are in that situation. It's a generational trauma story that I think is also important for kids, you know, in high school and stuff, to understand what generational trauma is. Mother-daughter relationships is important in this book, but yeah, it's really, really good. We're gonna get into the reasons why it has been banned. So it says mature themes, generational trauma, teenage pregnancy, and sexuality, which some find unsuitable for younger audiences. Okay, newsflash, teenagers have sex. Some teenagers get pregnant. You can't ignore that fact. And, you know, this tells the struggles of that teenage pregnancy, and I think that that is insanely important for anyone to read, to be honest, but especially people that are in high school. It literally has its banned or challenged because of historical context, because it includes an account of the Tulsa race massacre, which some people can find triggering or offensive. I forgot that that was in this book, but yeah, if you don't know about the Tulsa race massacre, I'll leave some stuff linked below, but I mean, it was a real thing where white people burned down a town that we considered like Black Wall Street because we were doing so well in our own segregated space. But, you know, we're just gonna erase that history like it did never happen. So if you're not familiar with the Tulsa Race Massacre, definitely look it up. It's something that's also buried in school for sure, because I learned about that afterwards in college and like through just word of mouth, and found books about it because I wasn't taught that in school. Hopefully they're teaching it now, but probably not. Yeah, concerns about appropriateness, that's just mainly what this is about, but this is an important read for, I think, high schoolers specifically to be reading, so definitely pick this one up. If you've read it, let me know your thoughts below, and if you do pick it up, let me know. I want more people to pick this one up because it's really good, and like I said, I don't hear a lot of people talking about it. Alright, next up here I have a graphic novel that everyone should read, which is The Complete Persepolis. So this is actually 2 graphic novels into one, but I have the Complete Persepolis volume, and I think that you should read the whole thing because it's fantastic. This is actually a memoir from Marjane Satrapi, and let me read the inside flap to give you information about what it's about. Persepolis is the story of Satrapi's unforgettable childhood and coming of age within a large and loving family in Tehran during the Islamic Revolution, of the contradictions between private and public life in a country plagued by political upheaval, of her high school years in Vienna facing the trials of adolescence far from her family, of her homecoming, both sweet and terrible, and finally of her self-imposed exile from her beloved homeland. It is the chronicle of a girlhood and adolescence at once outrageous and familiar, a young life entwined with the history of her country yet filled with the universal trials and joys of growing up. Woo, this book left such a lasting impression on me after reading it. I didn't know much about the Islam Revolution and learned a bunch in this book. So not only is it her experience from childhood to her adolescence and even adulthood, it tells a lot of the history of the Islamic Revolution, and I couldn't thank Marjane Satrapi enough for putting that in here, and it's just so important for everyone to read. I don't understand how a memoir can be banned, personally, because of someone's experience, but this book is one of the top 10 most banned books ever. And let's get into why. Graphic content, torture, it's war. War is a thing. Yeah, people get tortured. You can't just hide from it, especially if it's coming from a childhood perspective of what all of that means. Yeah, it exists. You can't get rid of it. Political and social commentary. Obviously, as we see now with what's going on in Gaza and all of these things that everyone's trying to hide and cover up and, you know, make propaganda bullshit. But obviously that's why it's been banned. Yeah, I mean, that's mainly it. You know, just typical shit from someone's experience that has been in a war, you know, as a child. And you know, we don't have a lot of examples of this. This is where I actually want recommendations from you guys. If there are memoirs, specifically from someone who was in war or a revolution or war-torn country or something like that when they were a child or adolescent, please leave that linked below. I'm doing a little bit of a project with that idea and just want some more recommendations for that. But anyway, you get it. Definitely pick it up. I think it's worth reading the entire thing. Yeah, it is a graphic novel. It's done really well. The work, the drawings and stuff are awesome. Yeah, pick this one up. Next up, I have another graphic novel series that is called March by John Lewis, Congressman John Lewis, who actually passed away last year, a couple years ago, but he was a big face of the civil rights movement, and it's his memoir and recounting of his time in the 60s, you know, early 70s, fighting in the civil rights movement. So there are 3 in here. Here's the first one, book 1, book 2, and book 3. Let me quickly read the inside flap for you. Congressman John Lewis is an American icon, one of the key figures of the civil rights movement. His commitment to justice and nonviolence has taken him from Alabama sharecropper's farm to the halls of Congress, from a segregation schoolroom to the 1963 March on Washington, and from receiving beatings from state troopers to receiving the Medal of Freedom from the first African-American president. So this is just his story. I'm so fascinated with John Lewis. If you have any other books about him, please let me know down below. But again, another kind of memoir or account of someone's life that has been banned, which makes no effing sense to me at all. But it's literally banned because of controversial religious viewpoints, because it talks about depictions of the civil rights movement. He lived through it. How could he not talk about it? It's ridiculous. Racial slurs. Oh, we have to ban that doesn't exist. It's ridiculous. Nothing crazy here. Profanity, violence, you know, things like that. So everything that actually happened for real during this time, they're trying to ban it and hide it and cover it up and act like it's too gruesome, when in reality that's just what it was, and we still deal with a lot of this shit still today. So yeah, if you are interested in graphic novels and stuff, these are phenomenal. The artwork in here is great as well. Just a little peek. So yeah, pick these up if you have not yet. Next up is a book that I joke and say made me who I am, and it's so funny because I actually don't own this book. I did at one point, but then with moving and college and stuff, it just got lost, so I really need to purchase a copy of it. But it is Where the Sidewalk Ends by Shel Silverstein. I loved everything Shel Silverstein wrote. I mean, if you haven't seen, I have like a Giving Tree sticker that's on my laptop that people like ask a lot of questions about. I just got it on Amazon, or like I think I actually got it on Etsy from the designer. If I can find it, I'll have it linked below. But yeah, like I would go to the library at school and just recheck out his books, like Where the Sidewalk Ends, Falling Up, Lights, what are they called? Light in the Attic, Falling Up, everything on it. Obviously The Giving Tree I loved a lot. And I couldn't believe that these were banned. Like, they're so whimsy and fun. And when I was kind of doing research for this video, this one popped up a lot. And it's just a collection of children's like poems and like drawings and stuff from Shel Silverstein. I don't really know how to describe it. Like, if you know, you know. If you haven't picked it up, definitely pick up any of his stuff. They're really whimsical and fun and just a great time. Here it says the reason why it's been banned is because it's rebellious, disrespectful, and promoting harmful ideas. It challenges authority, there's dark themes, and it's like, dude, it's not promoting violence or like rebellion in children. It's just typical stuff. They're just whimsy little things, quips that are cute for kids. Like, I thought this was really, really funny. I don't know. So I'm putting that on there because this is just me. I love Shel Silverstein. I want to get a like little tattoo. Although maybe, I mean, this stuff is old and he's a white author, so my heart might be broken and he's just a racist piece of shit, to be honest. But, you know, sometimes you gotta separate the author from the work, but this made me as a kid. I feel like Shel Silverstein and like Goosebumps were some of my favorites that were just... And they probably had to get new copies at our school library because I checked it out and kept them like and read through them so much that I just abused, like, well, didn't abuse them, I took care of the books, but just reading it so much, like they had to get new copies, which is hilarious. So yeah, pick up Shel Silverstein and read a couple poems for me if you haven't done that before in your life. Next up is another memoir that I don't own, but I need to get a copy, and that is All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson. I have it pulled up on Goodreads here just to be able to read the synopsis for you, but it says, in a series of personal essays, prominent journalist and LGBTQ+IA activist George M. Johnson explores his childhood, adolescence, and college years in New Jersey and Virginia. From the memories of getting his teeth knocked out by bullies at age 5, to flea marketing with his loving grandmother, to his first sexual relationships, this young adult memoir weaves together the trials and triumphs faced by Black queer boys. So it is targeted to young adult, and boy, did they try to ban the mess out of this memoir, for real. Like, I thought it was so important that what George M. Johnson did, and specifically targeted this memoir for young adults who are grappling with their sexuality, gender identity, and all of those things, and, you know, high school and middle school and things like that, because there aren't a lot of books and representation specifically for Black boys. Like, I don't even know if I can think of another example off the top of my head. I feel like this is the example, like this is the book. But of course, because it's queer, it's one of the most challenged and banned books ever. Yeah, this was a book that was huge, and people were just like, oh, he's trying to turn the kids gay, and it was a mess, and still is a mess, but I don't even think I really need to go into the reasons why it's banned. Obviously, gender identity, sexuality, queer relationships, Black queer individual, sexually explicit materials. He does talk a little bit about his sexual encounters, like, as we said, teenagers have sex. Like, you can't just not talk about it. Yeah, definitely support this author. I don't know if he has any other books out. I'll link them here, or put them here if there are, and I'll definitely pick them up too, because I can't imagine being that vulnerable that George M. Johnson was to write this book, because this man has been so insanely attacked for his Black boy queer joy experience, and I don't know, kudos to him, because that takes balls, unintended, like, didn't mean that, but it takes a lot of strength to be able to do that. Like, all jokes aside, yeah, praise and bless that man. Okay, so for these next two, I think that they have just been heavily challenged. I can find some areas it says they've been banned, but can't specifically point out where they've been banned. So just let me know below if you know, but I'm throwing these on here anyway because they are very important to me and I think everyone should read them. And for starters, one of my favorite books of all time, but also one of the saddest books I've ever read, is Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson. This is another young adult novel. It's fiction. It's kind of a mystery thriller, almost horror about missing girls. So the back says, "This is the story of how my best friend disappeared, how nobody noticed she was gone except me, and how nobody cared until they found her 1 year later." Literally reading that gets me, like this story was so profound. Like it says on here, a mesmerizing punch in the gut story. Literally, I feel that right now. Like I think I always remember how I felt at the end of this book because I literally sobbed. I think that this book I cried the most from, and it had me thinking about all of the lost and forgotten about Black and brown girls that are out there because I just don't get as much coverage or publicity or frankly care as other people who go missing. And I could do a whole video on that, but Tiffany D. Jackson did her big one with this book. As I said, I'm going to talk about some of the reasons why it's been challenged and banned, depictions of violence, sexual content, child abuse and neglect, heavy in this book. So this is one, definitely link up the trigger warnings because it gets way darker than I thought it was going to, for sure. But that does not mean it needs to be banned. You know, like it's important to tell these stories because shit like this does happen. And unfortunately it happens a lot more than anyone likes to believe. I'll put the stats down below or on the screen about the rate of missing Black girls in the US alone, and it just makes you fucking sick. But obviously some people don't want to read about that and they don't want their kids reading about it and they don't want to scare kids, you know, but it's important. Like this shit is important. Child abuse and neglect happens. It is a real thing and you can't just keep that away from the kids. So yeah, this is one, I mean, out of all these books, I want you to read them all, but this is one that is important and this could be a book club pick. Like this is one that I want people to read and be actively talking about because it is a problem and has been a problem forever with missing Black girls and it needs to be talked a lot more about. So yeah, pick up Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson, please. Okay, the last book I have here that I've read that I'm suggesting you to pick up if you have not has been banned for sure in the past, but I think it's only been challenged and stuff recently. I don't think it's really been banned much in modern day. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, shit's changing like this, especially this year. But that is The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. I pulled this one back out because last month I went to DC and went to the Holocaust Museum and I hadn't read this since, you know, early 20s or something, so I definitely want to pick this up again, but this is a powerful read for me. I'm going to read the back even though I'm sure most people know what this story is, but I'm going to read the back just like I did with all the other ones. Just as the Nazis occupied Holland in 1942, a Jewish family with a 13-year-old girl fled home to go into hiding and succeeded in eluding to dreaded Gestapo for 2 years. The girl, Anne Frank, wrote her diary till the family were betrayed and caught. While Anne Frank, her mother, and her sister eventually perished in captivity in a concentration camp at Bergen-Belsen, her beloved father, Otto Frank, survived the Holocaust. Her diary survived too. From the invading Gestapo thought that the papers is a heap of scrap. The edited version of the manuscript was published after the war. Since then it has been extensively filmed and widely translated. The diary contains Anne Frank's vivid impressions during the lengthy isolation and offers a fascinating insight into her bold personality. Here is a first-hand account of an adolescent girl's spirited view of life, an absolute must for the first-timers and a delightful rereading pleasure for the rest. I don't know about delightful. I mean, it's sad because you know that she perishes, and it tells you that on the back here, which I think is important, but it's just so important to know like what a young girl was dealing with in isolation, trapped in this tiny, tiny room, like fearing for her life every single day, every hour, every minute, you know, and trying to see how someone deals with that. But of course, as we talked about before, they want to hide the depressing elements of war. So getting into some of the reasons why, the main one is literally depressing content. Some individuals or groups have found the book's tragic nature to be depressing for young readers. Like, that infuriates me so much. Because, you know, hiding history and not talking to kids about this is exactly how history repeats itself. And look at the way of the world right now. It was so insane to be in DC. Sorry, I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent, but going to DC and going to the African American Museum and going to the Holocaust Museum and seeing the through lines of what I'm seeing in the presidency and things that are happening politically right now is insane. And like, I am having such a hard time wrapping my head around it, but yeah, it's wild. So, you know, it's important for kids to read true stories about history, regardless if it's depressing or not. You know, you have the luxury of not living during this time and not living through a war. Hopefully. You know, knock on wood. But yeah, I don't know. Rant over, you get it. If you haven't read Anne Frank, or if you haven't read The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank, definitely pick it up. It's a quick read, very insightful. Yeah, a classic for a reason. Okay, so those were the 10 books that I have read myself that I'm recommending for you to read that have been banned or challenged in the US. So next up, I have 5 books that I pulled off my shelves that I'm eager to get to that I know have been banned. So jumping right into it, I have a classic, which is 1984 by George Orwell. I know, how am I 31 years old and haven't read this book? I somehow didn't have to read it for school curriculum and it's just been sitting on my shelves, but I think it's time to pick it up soon. This is one that people say to read right now because they feel like George Orwell could see into the future of where we are now, and it's just a timeless piece. So quickly on the back it says, the year 1984 has come and gone, but George Orwell's prophetic, nightmarish vision in 1949 of the world we were becoming is timelier than ever. 1984 is still the great modern classic of negative utopia, a startlingly, that's a weird word, original and haunting novel that creates an imaginary world that is completely convincing from the first sentence to the last 4 words. No one can deny the novel's hold on the imaginations of whole generations or the power of its admonitions, a power that seems to grow, not lessen, with the passage of time. Okay, I kind of struggled through reading that, sorry, but I really don't know what this is about aside from like being similar to like Big Brother, and I know it's like a utopia book. So yeah, I mean, that's all I know. That's all I want to know, so no spoilers. But looking at reasons why it's banned, it says due to its social and political themes, sexual content. The book's exploration of surveillance, censorship, thought control, and the manipulation of language has been seen as threat to established authority in some context. Does that not sound like what we're going through right now? Yeah, I need to pick this one up. For sure. I mean, that's mainly what it is. Totalitarianism has been misinterpreted as either promoting communism or being anti-communist, leading to bans in the USSR and the USA, respectively. I don't know. Somehow I haven't read this book yet, but this one's high up on my list for banned books that I want to read soon. Next up is a Black classic. Honestly, I think it's just a classic. I don't know why I have the habit of saying Black classic, but just a classic. I know that a lot of people, or a lot of Black or white schools, it doesn't really matter, read this in their school curriculum, but I just never did. I was never assigned that in school. So it's been sitting on my shelves for a long time, and I know it's a lot of people's like favorite book. I actually haven't read anything by this author yet, so this is the only one I have on my shelves, so I need to get to it very soon, and that is Their Eyes Are Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. I honestly don't know what this is about, so let's get right into it. Their Eyes Are Watching God is an enduring Southern love story sparkling with wit, beauty, and heartfelt wisdom. Told in the captivating voice of a woman who refuses to live in sorrow, bitterness, fear, or foolish romantic dreams, it is a story of a fair-skinned, fiercely independent Janie Crawford and her evolving selfhood through 3 marriages and a life marked by poverty, trials, and purpose. Yeah, I just know that a lot of people love this book. I feel like I'm in the minority who hasn't read this book, whether Black or white. But looking into the reasons why it's been banned, it says sexual explicitity. The novel's depiction of Janie's sexual relationship has been a frequent point of contention. So, okay, I guess that's in there, but I mean, like I said, teenagers have sex. People have sex. Stereotyping, that's interesting. Like, we don't get stereotyped in real life. but okay. Language, and then it says age gap. Is there an age gap romance in here? All right, well, there's that. Let me know your thoughts if you've read this book, but this one's high up there for me. I can't wait to pick it up soon. Next up, I have another graphic novel that I believe is middle grade. Yeah, it is middle grade that I have not read yet, and I know this one has been banned and challenged a lot, and that is New Kid by Jerry Craft. I believe it's about this black kid's experience going through a predominantly white school. Which, hello. Welcome to my world and my struggles and my trauma. But okay, the back says, 7th grader Jordan Banks loves nothing more than drawing cartoons about his life. But instead of sending him to art school of his dreams, his parents enroll him in a prestigious Riverdale Academy day school, where Jordan turns out to be one of the few kids of color in his entire grade. As he makes the daily trips to school, Jordan soon finds himself torn between two worlds and not really fitting into either one. Can Jordan learn to navigate his new school culture while keeping his neighborhood friends and staying true to himself? Yeah, I need to read this bad boy because that sounds like my life as a kid, especially. But yeah, it's a graphic novel. No spoilers. Just want to give you some idea of what it looks like. But yeah, I need to pick this one up soon. It looks like there's another one called Class Act that I see back here. So he has more than one. But I just definitely know this one has been challenged a lot. It says, it has been banned and challenged in some school districts due to concerns that promotes critical race theory and Marxism. CRT is being attacked right now. So yeah, basically people are saying that the experience that black students in predominantly white schools haven't been positive, and because they are now talking about their experiences, they're saying it's damaging to American history and society. But it's the truth. So yeah, that's just ridiculous. It's another like memoir, you know, how do you ban a memoir? But apparently we figured out how to. So yeah, definitely pick this one up if you have kids. I mean, I haven't read it yet, but I'm sure it's going to be good. But it's just a perspective that I think specifically white kids need to read from to understand our experience. Not gonna lie. So I need to pick this up soon. If you've read it, let me know your thoughts below. All right, next up, I'm almost embarrassed because I've had this book on my shelves for so long. I picked it up because of Ashley from Realm of Kidlit Comics raved about this years ago when she read it, and I just have been eager to pick it up, but just haven't done it yet. And that is All American Boys by Jason Reynolds and Brendan Keeley. So I've read Long Way Down, the graphic novel by Jason Reynolds. I haven't read the full young adult novel yet, and I'm not sure who Brendan Keeley is, but the praise that Ashley gives this book is outstanding. So let's read it together. Rashad is absent again today. That's the sidewalk graffiti that started it all. Well, no, actually, a lady tripping over Rashad at the store, making him drop a bag of chips was what started it all. Because it didn't matter what Rashad said next. That it was an accident, that he wasn't stealing. The cop just kept pounding him, over and over, pummeling him into the pavement. So then Rashad, an ROTC kid with mad art skills, was being absent again and again, stuck in a hospital room. Why? Because it looked like he was stealing, and he was a black kid in baggy clothes, so he must have been stealing. And that's how it started. And that's what Quinn, a white kid, saw. He saw his best friend's older brother beating the daylights out of a classmate. At first, Quinn doesn't tell a soul. He's not even sure he understands it. And does it matter? The whole thing was caught on camera anyway. But when the school and nation starts to divide on what happened, blame spreads like wildfire, fed by ugly words like racism and police brutality. Quinn realizes he's got to understand it because bystander or not, he's part of history. He just has to figure out what side of history that will be. Rashad and Quinn, one black, one white, both American, face the unspeakable truth that racism and prejudice didn't die after the civil rights movement. There's a fight at stake, a future where no one else will have to be absent because of police brutality. They just have to risk everything to change the world, because that's how it can end. Yeah, I can already tell why this is banned, but this sounds so good. It's reminded me of The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas, which I don't have on this list, but that's another one. If you haven't read it, definitely read it. It's kind of giving that, but a little more complex, and it doesn't seem like anyone dies, but maybe they do. It looks like he just was really hurt and was in the hospital. But either way, talking about police brutality, talking about black people's experiences with the cops, you know, white kids' roles, and trying to understand that, you know, the bystander effect of witnessing violence you know, all those things. That sounds fantastic. Getting into why it has been challenged and banned, it says depictions of police brutality. We knew that. Profanity, drug use, and alcoholism. It says is promoting anti-police views. You know, if there's any conversation about police brutality, that shit's gonna be banned and wiped or try to be wiped away anyway. So, yeah. We already know nothing surprising here, but definitely want to read this one for sure. All right, and the last book that I have here is actually a book that's composed of different stories from a bunch of heavy-hitting authors that's compiled that tells the true, like, Black history of American history. And that is 400 Souls, which has been edited by Ibram X. Kendi. He is the author of How to Be an Anti-Racist. I'll put it here if you haven't read that one. That one's one that's been banned and challenged. It's a really good nonfiction, like entry-level book about anti-racism that you should read if you haven't. And it says it's also edited by Keisha and Blaine. I'm not sure who that is, but it says she's the author of Set the World on Fire. So if you can see the back here, this is the list of authors who have put a piece in this book. And it says here, a chorus of extraordinary voices tells one of history's greatest epics, the 400-year journey of African Americans from 1619 to the present. I think that's all I'm gonna read. So each author takes a little snippet of time and they write whatever they want to write about it, and it's compiled into this big ass book. But yeah, talking about this makes me want to pick it up like right now. Yeah, this looks so good. But obviously, this is going to be challenged and banned because of critical race theory, which means Black people are telling, and Indigenous people, a lot of people in general, are now not rewriting history, but telling the true history of America and not whitewashing and wiping away the embarrassing and sad and depressing and traumatic parts, because you have to tell the entire history. And unfortunately, the history of America has always been violent and unfair. So yeah, of course, people don't want to talk about that. People don't talk about that at all, so I'm sure it's been banned. Actually, it says on here it hasn't been banned, but it faces challenges and critique. So that's another one that I guess hasn't officially been banned, but it definitely faces a lot of challenges, and I see it in a lot of lists. So that's it. If you've read any of those 5, let me know down below what you thought, which one you think I'm gonna like, and what I should pick up first. Obviously, there are so many, unfortunately, there are so many banned and challenged books, but it is important for each of us to do our part and paying attention to what's going on in our state, libraries, all of those things in terms of idiots who are taking their time to go out and try to monitor other people's kids and remove access from individuals, which I think is ridiculous. So let me know down below what some of your favorite banned or challenged books are. I'm always on the hunt to read some. Also pay attention to Banned Books Week, which happens the first week of October, I believe, every year. So I will be participating in that and doing some vlogs and readathons, and need to like make my little TBR because there are so many. So let me know any books that you like down below. If you like what you saw here, definitely subscribe to my channel, please. I'm trying to get to that like 1,000 subscriber mark. I'm almost there. And, you know, leave a comment down below, leave me a like. It all helps me out and I appreciate it. Until then, I'll see ya in the next one. Bye.